Well, thank you. We'll go ahead and get started. Thanks again for being here today. We're on day 16, unfortunately, with Democrats not showing up for work. I know that you are probably getting tired of it, but the true people that are actually tired of this are Minnesota taxpayers paying $10,000 for 66 Democrats that are not showing up for work. That is a frustrating thing. Not only are they not here, or like yesterday, meeting with all of you on Zoom, but they're not here and they are preventing the work that needs to take place here in the House of Representatives. At this point, we cannot introduce bills. We are working on bills. We are working with constituents. We are working with interest groups that are here, and a group of people from the healthcare systems in today, talking about the real needs across the state of Minnesota that people are facing. We know there's a lot of work that has to get done. That is what House Republicans continue to do. Eventually, our Democrat colleagues, whether it is one or if it is 66, will join us in this place. We expect that we will work fairly with them whenever that happens. But right now, the level of disrespect shown to the taxpayers and just the residents of Minnesota alone is really disappointing and frustrating. We are working here. We are doing committee meetings. Obviously, they are not official. Our committees are all meeting and working through those line item budgets with what we know right now, because the final forecast obviously isn't out. But we are doing that work and meeting in person with groups in addition to back in our districts. House Republicans can do both. We can work in St. Paul as called for and in our districts in the evenings and Fridays and on weekends, unlike our Democrat colleagues.
Not showing up for work is bad enough. Taking a paycheck, not showing up for work is bad enough. Republicans are here. We want to get to work. Democrats went all the way to the Supreme Court to prevent us from getting to work, and they're still not here showing up. We're on day 16 of the Democrat shutdown. It's got to end.
Have you had any discussions with your DFL counterparts in the last 24, 36 hours?
Very interesting. No discussions with Representative Hortman, but there has been a number of discussions going on member to member. And we are understanding that there's quite a bit of frustration from some of our Democrat colleagues that really do want to get back to work. What we have said is we have a place for you here. There is history in Minnesota over in the Senate where people went independent and then still had a place and work that could get done. It would take one Democrat to show up in this place. We would make sure that they have an office. You know, those threats that are out there, you wouldn't have a caucus, you wouldn't have an office, you wouldn't have a place to do your work. We absolutely need to work for the people of Minnesota, and no single party should hold elected officials back from doing that work for their constituents.
Are you suggesting that there are side negotiations among members happening? Is that messing up the process?
I am not a part of any of the direct discussions back and forth. Members are having those discussions. You have to remember that each class you come in with, you kind of bond with those people in those first few days until you're into the more partisan pieces of things. We also have committee chairs that have relationships of what would have been co-chairs. We know that doesn't exist right now. There is no tie. But those chairs have worked with leads of the Democrat leads potentially of different committees, trying to get that work done. So no side things. Obviously, no discussions with Representative Hortman today, but there's no side agreements that would stand in the way of anything.
Those that are thinking about it, any idea what's holding them back then?
I can't speak to that. I can't speak to that. I don't know. What we have said over and over is there is a place for anyone that would want to come in and start getting to the work. I mean, we know that there should be committee assignments, but you have to have committees that can actually do the work before you get committee assignments. So I don't know what's holding them back. That'd be a great question for Democrat leadership.
How can Minnesotans expect the House to pass a budget if you can't pass something like a power sharing agreement?
Right now, there is no power to be shared. There's a 67, 66, so thinking that there could be equal power all the way through is unrealistic. But Minnesotans can expect elected officials to show up to work and to get to work for the people and get that work done on time. May 19th is the end of session, and just because Democrats are holding up the entire process and causing the work not to take place doesn't mean it can't get done.
Or maybe
Your question's a great question to ask the 66 people who are choosing not to show up for work.
maybe rephrase, maybe not power sharing, but resolve these negotiations. How
No discussions with Representative Hortman today.
So if you're not having direct conversations with people who could switch parties or become independents, are you saying you might be open to them maybe getting a gavel or some kind of power potentially if they chose to do
You know, I wouldn't say that there's any discussions to that level because nobody showed up. But if they were going to show up, discussions would continue.
Now, you said that there were no discussions with Leader Hortman. What about Leader Long?
I have not talked to Leader Long in any of this. That's really interesting that you bring that up. I've talked with Leader Hortman. Representative Long hasn't reached out at all to me. Maybe he will.
Did you have any contact with him?
I have regularly encouraged Representative Long to show up to work. He hasn't yet.
Is there anything other than full surrender from the Democrats that might break this logjam?
We know that the Democrats have been really clear saying that they will stay out until that special election is determined in Roseville. I don't think that seems like full surrender. I think that is just trying to fill a seat, whichever way that will go. I don't know what the Democrats actually need to actually come in and just do the work they were elected to do and that they're getting paid to do without doing the work.
Those unofficial committee meetings that you're having, are those open to the public?
They're not open to the public right now. We really don't have the mechanism to make that happen, but the committees are working. Definitely not an hour and 15 minutes. That's not the amount of time, but they are meeting, even extending the invitation to some of those agencies that were prevented from coming in to the committees before they were considered organized. So they've extended those invitations back to the agencies saying, would you like to have a meeting so we could understand what your needs are going forward?
I'm surprised that I went to look for one of your bills and they're not on the site anymore. Is there a way to, it seems Orwellian to have taken those off the website?
You know, what I will say is with the Supreme Court decision, it really negated all of the work that had been done, including bill introductions. Now, the House IT is going to do a good job of keeping the historical record, but they had to move it out just because of the decision that was made. Those, all of the video from the actual committee hearings, all of the bills, everything should be available hopefully sooner rather than later. Unfortunately, I don't have a say in when that will happen, but people are looking for that. They want to hear what the testimony was. There was great testimony from school district officials that are facing unbelievable financial challenges because of the mandates that were put on by Democrats over the last 2 years. There is all of that testimony out there that really will inform the decisions that have to be made, including trying to see some of those bills. Our bill authors, though, have copies of those bills, and they are working the process. Unfortunately, it all has to be redone because of the Democrat slowdown in the process here and taking us to court to prevent the work being done for the state of Minnesota.
Do you think you're anywhere near convincing maybe one or two House Democrats to show up? I've been tuning in every day, just looking at the other side and wondering if we won't just get a repeat of what we've been seeing this whole time.
You said that you've been tuning in.
Well, on the stream for the House. To this.
Oh, to this.
Yeah.
We don't know. You know that those conversations, just side conversations, are going on. Definitely not from leadership to other members. Those side conversations. I would say at any point in time that could happen.
Representative Niska, do you have any update on potential litigation to Secretary of State Simon?
Nothing to announce at this moment, no.
I'll ask this again then. Other than our clothes changing, has anything changed?
There were no meetings today with Representative Hortman. That is a change over the last few days.
We did slightly offer or change the motion that we submitted to the desk that Secretary Simon again unconstitutionally refused to recognize us for.
Is there any change in your feeling about the Tabke seat and what to do with it?
You know, that seat, again, Representative Tabke's chair was empty again today. You can turn your cameras to that and see that he never showed up today. So he is the one unseating himself right now.
After 16 days of this, not getting anywhere, how do you describe your relationship with the other side?
There were no conversations today with Representative Hortman. I was at work. Meeting with constituents, meeting with the pages, the young people that are watching how this plays out. Apparently that meeting with Representative Hortman was by Zoom. I was in person with the pages that were here.
Feeling optimistic, pessimistic?
Always optimistic. I will always be optimistic.
Leader Hortman was also optimistic. Does that mean anything? You're both optimistic?
The work has to get done. Minnesotans are counting on us to do the work, so it has to be done. This is the bumpier start than we could have gone, and so if they're serious about wanting to come back to work, we are ready and willing to do that.
All right, thanks.
Thank you. Thank you for being here.